This panel is about writing expectations at four-year institutions. Many of our students, about I think 85%, plan to transfer, so you might consider yourself a part of that group, and you might want to know what you have to look forward to and why exactly your English 100, 101, 97, 98, and 102 classes will matter as you move into your majors and your fields. So these former GRCC students are going to share with us their experiences and insights. So I'm just going to pass it along. We can start with Ellie. Who are you? Where did you go to school? And what is your major, or was?
Okay, I went to, I was in a consortium between, is that not working? Is that better?
Probably. I don't know.
Okay. Can you hear me in the back? No?
Yes.
All right, well, I'll just say it louder because this is not working. I was in a consortium between FAIRS and GRCC, so I attended both at the same time. I'm currently going to FAIRS, and I'm getting a Bachelor of Science in Integrated Studies with a minor in English/professional writing and intercultural communications.
Can you tell us about that major? What does that mean?
That means that it's basically more for, I could cobble two minors together and actually build my skill set instead of going, what I wanted to do did not quite fit into a major already designated. So I was able to do that because I want to tutor, but I also want to be able to do grant writing and technical writing.
Okay, so wonderful. So students can know that if they feel like they can't decide on a major, they could have this other option that's available
Yes.
to them. So academia might be much more flexible than we anticipated.
Yes, it is very flexible.
Okay, great. And James?
Hi, I'm James Setchfield. I'm a writing tutor in the Language Arts Lab. I was a student at GRCC from 2007 to 2009. I transferred to Michigan State thereafter, and I pursued a degree in history. And then after a gap period, about 5 years, I went back and received a master's in higher education and adult learning.
That sounds very interesting. How did you decide you wanted to be a history major?
I love learning about past civilizations and cultures, and I always enjoyed learning about why things are the way they are today, and I felt it was in the past that you could find out that secret.
So it was more about the experience of learning about a subject rather than your marketability after you could graduate. You felt like it was more about your curiosity and following your curiosity as opposed to necessarily being like, this is going to be a set job for me afterwards.
Yes, it was very much intrinsic benefit and enjoyment instead of how is this going to help me on the job market thereafter once I'm finished.
Okay. How about you, Eric?
Sure. I kind of snuck in here because I actually didn't go to GRCC. So
Surprise.
Yes. However, I went to Aquinas College for my undergraduate, and I was a sociology major, communication minor, and then I attended Grand Valley State University where I received a Master's of Education, Higher Education, Adult Education. And I'm currently a doctoral candidate at Western Michigan University in their Higher Education Student Affairs program.
What did you think of Aquinas?
It was good, and I was definitely a struggling writer when I arrived there. I was sharing with Kim on the way in that I thought I was okay with writing, and it was an advanced composition class my second year as a sophomore. Not my second sophomore year, my second year. But I took this class, and I realized that I just did not have the foundation to be a successful writer. And although that class was grueling, it really set me up for success in all the other aspects of my undergraduate and graduate programs.
What an important moment in your
Yes.
educational career. And Tram?
Are we talking about ourselves? Or?
You're introducing yourself.
Okay. Our prize traffic is no joke, guys. So, my name's Tram Tran. I went here for 2 years, and then I transferred to Grand Valley, and I got my undergraduate there as in a Bachelor's of Science in Allied Health Science, and right now I'm trying to get into graduate school and become a physician assistant. I really did value my time here at CC. It really was a good foundation, just because when you get to like in a regular university and stuff, they don't help you hands-on. It's like you just jump in and you're on your own. And yeah, like I said, this place was a good foundation. Yeah.
So let's continue with you. What classes at your four-year at GVSU required you to write?
All of them. So, I had a choice of electives, and I usually chose classes where I could write more, just because my degree focused on research writing so much that I wanted to be able to be creative in some aspect. So I chose world mythology, which requires you to write like a 16-page paper and make up your own mythology, basically. And but yeah, like I said, most of my classes required research papers, not just in science, but also I took Intro to Roman history, and I had to write a research paper on that as well. But yeah, it's really research heavy if you go up higher, if you want to be in science or psychology or anything like that.
Yeah, sure.
When you were at school, what required writing?
I would agree with Tram. It was pretty much every class required some aspect of writing. And I went to the social sciences, and even when I was taking math classes, they were statistical oriented. And so even though we were talking about math subjects, you had to convey them in language that made sense to others. And I think one of the threads for me, and sometimes I didn't really embrace this learning, is that the more simple, direct, and concise you can be, and of course, writing is contextual. There's different attributes of different styles of writing across different disciplines and contexts, but I keep hearing from my faculty, even at a graduate level, whether it was master's or doctoral level, is they appreciate when you are concise, exacting, simple to a point, while you're still being able to translate complexities, but not doing so with rosiness or floweriness that really detracts from the message you're trying to make. So that's one thing I've received over and over again as feedback, which I try to pay attention to, but sometimes I walk away from it.
As a fellow social science major, writing was a daily aspect of my life. Aside from some of the larger 400-person classes, I had to write for every single class. Feedback is incredibly important. It helped me to improve my writing dramatically and to eliminate redundancies and to write in a style that the instructors desired, the faculty desired. But it's ubiquitous as you move on to a four-year university and beyond. You won't escape it. It's there, and it's fun. I promise.
You promise. The same for me. It's every class. I'm currently a senior right now, and I have a 20-page paper for gender communication. So you write, and I have found you also have to be able to write like emails. During my internship, I needed to be able to write professional emails, so it's not always just papers. Your writing is critiqued in every aspect.
So as you guys were writing for your classes, did you feel like you knew what you were getting into, or was every assignment different? So you said there was a lot of research writing. Did you feel like every research paper was the same, or were they different based on the class and the professor and what level it was?
I would say the professors really do lay it out for you, but whatever you really put into it, they read so many papers. And you have to be able to put your voice into it, even if it's just a research paper. But you also have to know how to, the basic is that you need to know how to write in a way that it flows well. And so, there's basic guideline, and then it's what you add to it that will make a paper, really.
So you guys are both tutors on the end, so do you feel like when you see the assignments from outside of, say, the English department, are the expectations based on the professor, or do you feel like every paper is the same? Like once I get an assignment, like I know how to write a paper, so I'm just gonna sit down and write a paper, or is it different based on the context?
It differs for every instructor. Depending on what they want, the discipline in which you're studying, the type of essay you're writing, it changes each time, and it is context bound. I feel comfortable saying no. It's not all the same.
Okay. Okay. So,
Do you mind
did
if I
you
touch-
guys feel? Sorry.
I was going to answer that just really
Yeah,
quick. if you don't
great.
mind. So I think some of the success in your beyond GRCC, and if you do look at graduate programs, is reading the faculty member, reading your professors. And part of that is having dialogue with them, talking to them about some of their expectations, or if you got marked down for something that doesn't quite make sense to you because you were taught to do it differently, sometimes you don't want to get entrenched in that, but you just want to have a conversation, understand what their preferences are, what they're trying to get from that. And again, they might be expressing how writing in this specific context within this discipline area requires this approach differently. And so, you have to read not only the subject and the research paper, the data that you need to incorporate, but you need to read the faculty member and their expectations as well. And so sometimes you just have to ask for help and say, I thought I did this correctly. I saw your criticism here, your feedback. How do I approach this in the future and incorporate that into your methods moving forward?
And Eric, as you moved into the professional world, did you feel like it was like a similar thing? So you still write as part of
Yes.
your job.
Yes.
I know this as your colleague. So do you still feel like you have to know your colleagues or your boss's expectations, and that your writing will differ based on those expectations?
Absolutely. I think more and more we're cognizant of that because the approach that you take is going to matter in terms of how folks will pay attention to it, the audience will respond to it. We write a lot of correspondences to students, and you don't want a long narrative. You want short, succinct, to the point, give me the details if I want to drill down on it, to the web page or whatever the case is. So we think about that all the time, the context. And we're all busy, let's face it. We were jokingly aside from starting this discussion today, like how's your role, what's going on? And I said, yeah, it's pretty much emails and meetings. And that's kind of a joke, but there's a lot of truth in that. And we're busy. We have a lot going on. So you have to think about your audience, how quickly you can convey the message directly, succinctly, and getting that point across. And the audience does matter.
Thank you. Ellie, as you moved between Ferris and GRCC, did you feel prepared for the writing assignments that were given to you based on the foundation laid in your GRCC classes?
Yes.
Could you say more about that?
Yeah.
Tell us more.
Well, I had an instructor who was very picky about the commas and the structure, but also the global issues, being able to communicate. And that's where I see, even though I write for intercultural competence, race and ethnicity papers, for my technical writing, the foundation is still the same. You still have to be able to paragraph your ideas. You still have to transition your ideas, whether it's a email that has some information or it's a 2-page paper or a 20-page paper. You still have to be able to communicate. So I felt very prepared for that.
Excellent. James, how about you? As you moved to Michigan State, did you feel prepared for your classes there and the writing that was expected of you?
I did. I had the education I received here at GRCC through English 101, 102, and then popular fiction, which is a marvelous course. The ability to communicate my ideas clearly in an organized, logical manner, that's what instructors are looking for. Can you express your ideas in a concise, clear manner? I make comma mistakes, yeah. But the most important thing I learned as I was working and studying is that clear communication is the key. Not so much having every period, although those are important, but having perfect grammar and punctuation.
Yeah, and Tram, how about you? Did you feel prepared as you transferred?
I did. I really did. Just like they've said, English 101 and 102, they really prepare you to be able to pick a message that you want to write in a paper and then be able to convey that really well.
What did you learn in your classes at GRCC that was most beneficial?
How I feel is 101 focuses on you just being able to write, and then 102 is like how you mold it. So I feel like I've said, it was a really good foundation, because even though I knew how to write, I was able to bring it up another step, just because writing freely is a very hard thing, because writer's block is really can hinder people. And I feel like taking 101 it made me be able to know that writer's block isn't something that I just experience, and that I can actually go forward from that, and that really it is just you need to start writing, and then you'll finally be able to pick something up. And then 102 is like, hey, these are, now that you have this, I don't know, just something that you have, you can mold it and write research papers, write things that mean to you, really.
So I wanted to share an experience in that second year class would have been equivalent to 102, this advanced comp class I took. And this may not be a preferred teaching method anymore, but it was one of the most important lessons that I took from that class. We in this class would have a writing subject area and certain constructs that they wanted us to focus on, and then we'd come to class and turn that in. Next week, what they would do is they would white out our name and make copies for everybody in the class and just turn the class loose on the paper. And whoever was shrinking in their chair in bright red was usually the author of that paper. And I remember being the author of that paper and thinking like, oh, these ideas are so well constructed, and and they were like, no, you didn't do that. And they didn't know they were talking to me expressly, but I couldn't help but feel embarrassed, and I was already kind of not totally confident about my writing. I felt like I was doing a good job, and I think that's a challenge with writing, is that I don't think anybody here considers them to be an expert, and you have to submit your paper sometimes to your peers, to tutors, to your teachers, and that's a vulnerable experience. And although I felt unnerved at first about that experience, and I was red-faced and slouching in my chair, I think eventually I realized how important that feedback is, and that writing is that continuous cycle of feedback and improvement. And I still get nervous now. In my doctoral level program, I have experts in my field who are my professors, and sometimes I'm reticent to turn my papers in draft form, because I do need their feedback, but I still have that apprehension. But I realize how important it is. And I would say most faculty that I've experienced have been gentle about that. There certainly is that vulnerability, but I think that you need to have that and be willing to say, I'm not the best right now, and that I will continue to improve, and that becoming a better writer really is a lifelong process. You don't ever arrive. But I think having just that mindset will continue your improvement well into your education experience.
Thank you.
Okay. Quite possibly the most important thing I took away from GRCC is that writing is an iterative process. You have multiple drafts of feedback, improvement, tweaking, your various drafts, and that's a good thing. Very rarely will you have the best paper ever on the first go, and receiving that feedback from your instructors and your peers really is, I found that the most helpful part. Once I accepted that it was a good thing, I was very nervous about providing my essays and putting myself into a vulnerable position, taking a chance. But learning from those experiences and having that mindset that you can learn from mistakes, that was tremendously beneficial. Also, time management. It's a critical factor. Give yourself more time than you need. As some instructors here let me know with my grade, but.
Thank you.
I think for me, like James said, it's a process. When I came into GRCC, I was your non-traditional student, and it was very, humbling maybe. I was very scared about my writing because I had a lot younger people in the same classroom, and my instructor always let me know it's a process. You'll continue to get better. You just keep working at it. And now I am a better writer, but it's still a process. I will always have room for improvement. I will never be the perfect writer, and that's okay. And one of the things was also to ask for help, to be your own best advocate for your education. You don't understand something, ask the instructor. You want help with your papers, go to the different labs. And that's for any, and not just writing, any of them. I've always been a proponent for just getting help, somebody else's viewpoint.
So Ellie, as you move through your education, is there something that you wish you'd learned at GRCC or earlier in your academic career that you feel like you missed out on now?
Not really, except for when I took a lot of online courses. I missed that conversation you have in the classroom, and when you talk to your peers about ideas. I kind of missed that. So, but no, actually, I felt well prepared because I knew I had to manage my time. I have a family also, and I used the labs. I used the math lab, I used the biology lab, and I used the language arts lab where I work now. Because I was afraid of not doing well, because it had been a while since I had been in school.
Great wisdom. James, how about you? Is there something that you wished you'd learned before you transferred?
Yes, I wish I would have learned different styles and types of writing, different disciplines such as business writing, how to write a resume and cover letter, context-specific writing styles and forms. Although English 101 and 102 gave me an excellent comprehensive knowledge of the foundations of writing, I wish I would have continued to learn more about specific types of writing before I transferred.
How about you, Eric?
Yeah. So this was one that I was late to as well, but has really improved my writing. You want to feel confident in your authority of the content and topic that you're talking about, because if you're not there, it's going to show through in your writing very readily. And I'm sure not many of you in this room, perhaps a few of you, remember the days of card catalogs and trying to find research and information. It was brutal. It was really rough. However, now I think there's inherently another challenge that comes with having so much information at your fingertip is validating what's the good information, what's the legitimate information that you should be incorporating into your research. And so the advice I would part to you, and one that I've taken myself up on, especially in my graduate program, is get to know your librarians. You spend a half an hour or an hour with them. You may think you know how to Google, but using the search engines that they have available to you and really maximizing those will, one, save you a tremendous amount of time, and it will help you get to that strong resources and sources that you need to be confident that you are talking about your subject with authority. They're probably going to nerd out on you about all the great things that they have in the library, but that half an hour to hour can save you tremendously over the course of your education experience.
How about you, Tram?
I'd have to agree with you. Even though we do utilize using catalogs here, not to the extent that you really need to do it. I was online on Grand Valley's, they have several catalogs available to you through any subject, and being able to know which keywords to look for, what's important to your paper. Even though I got a little taste of it at CC, I didn't realize how much I needed to know how to do that when I moved up.
Good advice. Thank you, guys. James, how about we start with you this time? The whole title of this session is, what are the writing expectations at four-year institutions? So can you summarize that for us?
Oh, well, it's difficult to encapsulate the writing expectations, but from my experience, instructors expect you to be proactive, to take initiative, to ask questions when you don't understand something, to manage your time effectively, and to be able to take feedback from an earlier paper and implement that feedback in your new papers and writings as you continue on in a course. I tried to encapsulate it.
Yeah, so be an engaged student.
Yes.
How about you, Ellie? What do you think?
Being proactive, again, your best advocate. Could you repeat that question again? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
what are the writing expectations at four-year institutions?
Yeah.
That's a big one.
But I would have to say proactive because, they will give you an assignment or let you pick your assignment, actually, write about something about this subject. And, we see an annotated bib and you pick what you want to write about. So you have to be, I lost my train of thought, I'm sorry. So you have to be proactive and you have to think critically. And it's like we're here, you think, oh my gosh, I have to write a 3-page paper. In the 4-year institution, they will ask you for an 8, a 10, a 15-page paper. But you can easily move that. What I do is I think about my larger assignments as a bunch of small assignments, and I segment them. So that helps. Just like they're asking you to write 5 or 6 3-page papers all at one time about the same thing.
Yeah, so not only are you building your stamina at GRCC, but you are also figuring out that a big paper is really just many small
Yes.
sitting down sessions of a paragraph here and a paragraph there, and then looking back and doing your holistic evaluation.
Yes, exactly.
Tram, how about you? What expectations are there at four-year institutions?
They will give you a list exactly like how they do here. Like, I know in my bioethics class, they would be like, so take a side on one issue, and it could be like legalizing cannabis, or, your stance on a physician-assisted suicide. These are subjects that are honestly written about a lot. Don't always pick them just because there's so much information on them, because there's so much stuff on them. Like, choose differently. Or if you do choose that one, pick a different stance on it. And if you can imagine this professor is reading the same paper over and over and over again, what will make you different is writing something different. And they'll look at your paper and they'll be like, that's interesting. And they'll, just don't make it boring for the professors. That's what I'm trying to say.
So the expectation is that you're going to be an independent thinker or developing as an independent thinker, and to show that to your audience, your professor is part of that audience, you can then be noted and feel like you can stand out because you're doing something that's different. Eric, how about you? What do you think the expectations are at four-year institutions?
I would agree with everything that's been shared thus far. I think the one thing I would just kind of underscore is around that pace and the higher levels of expectations. Whether you start at a community college or you start at a four-year institution, that core of general education classes is seen as helping you build your foundation. So there's a lot of time and energy by faculty helping you think about, how do I set this up? How do I craft a strong paper? How do I develop strong ideas? How do I back them up? And once you get to those third and fourth level courses, they're there to help you, of course, and help you troubleshoot things, but they want to hear about the clarity of ideas, your ability to construct a viewpoint and substantiate it, so that it's not so much about fundamentals anymore. It's the pace and also the length. As Ellie said, those papers become a lot longer. And at first it feels a little bit terrifying, but once you get in that move, you got that good muscle built up around your writing skills, you'll be able to pull it off well.
Great. So obviously you have all worked hard to be good writers. It wasn't just something you were born and you were like, I'm an excellent writer, but there are ups and downs along the way and lots of learning that had to happen. So why do you guys value good writing? Why is that an important thing for you in your life? Who'd like to start?
I'll start. Writing, for me, why I find it valuable is for two reasons, two primary categories. One is for my inner benefit. Writing can be there's therapeutic, relaxing experience, an enjoyable experience, not just to get a job or to get a grade, but to express yourself and to really explore your humanity. I've enjoyed that aspect tremendously. But it's also, it opens doors to you professionally and academically. More and more, as time goes on and technology becomes ever more present, face-to-face communication is dwindling, and people will evaluate you and your character based on the text that you write, the quality of your writing. And so I find that's very valuable in that regard.
Yeah, writing is certainly an extension of ourselves. Ellie.
For me, I've started to actually do journaling, and I didn't think I'd enjoy it at first, but I was just going to practice writing, and it's benefited me a lot. I don't get a chance to do it as much as I would like to, but so that's like personally, I actually enjoy it. And then professionally, as James said, it opens so many doors. That's one of the, I think, most sought-after soft skills is being able to communicate in the workforce today and communicate effectively. So.
Eric, how about your thoughts about this topic? Why is writing well important?
Yeah, I think when James was kind of sharing the last part he said about it as an expression of who you are and how people perceive you, I just want you to think about this. And I don't say this to presuppose that you do this, but I get lots of emails from students and there's no academic or professional standard in their writing at all. You need to be conscientious. I mean, short text and that, communication with your peers, that's totally cool. And you've probably heard this lecture before perhaps, but think about you emailing the admissions rep at the transfer institution you want to go to, and they actually make decisions. And even though your essay is pretty strong in that, just that interaction between them could shade their viewpoint on you and if they're going to let you in or not. And the same thing happens in the job interview process, and when you're a new employee on the job. These things are really critical to establishing your level of expectations, your level of intellect, your ability to be professional. So it seems like small things, but it really does say more than the words that are in those texts.
Yeah, so your comments really echo what Ellie is saying about your writing being able to open doors, but then also the possibility that they could close doors on things that are really important for yourself personally and also your future. Jam, why is writing well important to you?
Well, I started writing because, my brother passed away when I was little, so my mind kind of goes 100 miles speed, and I think about everything so much, but when I started writing, I was able to write down how I really felt, and so it was a therapeutic process. And then as I grew up and got to go higher up in writing, I realized just how much it could elevate you. And I'm sitting here and you wouldn't know that, but when I write it out, it's an extension of me. And by writing well, you show everybody, this is who I am, this is what I'm thinking, this is how I'm feeling. And so it's just your way of expressing yourself. And why wouldn't you want to do that well?
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'd like you each to share some words of advice to our audience about your experiences in education. What words of wisdom would you share about writing and their education in general? We'll start with you, Tram.
Always read. And when someone edits your paper, don't take it as a personal attack. It's them trying to make you better. I noticed that at Grand Valley, I think people aren't used to criticism. So when I took out a red pen, I was you put way too many that's and too many of these words and all these things. They're how dare you? This is my paper. I wrote a perfect paper. I'm I can help you write a better one. This is a good one, but I can make you, just know that criticism isn't bad, and take it in, because it's just to make you better.
Right, so it's an extension of ourselves, but it's not like somebody is saying you are a bad person. They're saying I could help you with this work that you have created. Eric, what kind of advice do you have for our crowd?
Yeah, well, I hope that you took a few nuggets from what I shared about being open to the criticism and feedback, that's really important, being vulnerable to that. Librarians are your friends. And I think one of the challenges for me as a writer is just moving out distractions. It's so easy to get distracted. The fact that if you can create time and space to do this important work as you go through your higher education experience, I think you're going to be ultimately more successful.
Yes, it's amazing what you can accomplish in 20 minutes of concentration.
Yep.
James, how about you?
Well, to piggyback off of Eric's comment about a quiet space, I cannot stress this enough. And learning how you write best, discovering your learning process and thought generation process, the one that works for you, and everyone's going to be different. I put earplugs in, go to a very small room with no internet access, and just hammer away at the keys. You're all going to have something different. If you have the same one, talk to me. I'd like to hear what you think about it. And don't hesitate to ask questions or to try something new. And yeah.
Wonderful. Trying new things is great. Ellie, what advice would you like to offer our audience?
Scheduling. Make time for your papers. Too many times, I think, in your first year, students, they'll write it the night before or 2 days before, and they only have a half an hour to do revision. And it takes time. It takes several drafts. If you really want to coherently express your ideas, you have to have that time. So you write better. Most people write better if you write just a little bit, come back to it later, instead of the night before just trying to figure out everything that you have to work on. Because you have global issues, you have local issues, you have arrangement. It's just so many things that go into writing that it's a process. And I think sometimes students don't realize what a long process it can be.
Thank you all so much for your great insights and your thoughts about this important topic. I would like to see if any of you guys have any questions, follow-up questions for our group up here who has something they want to know about.
What did you say was the best way to get these writer's block? I think you had something about that.
I don't think I did say, but writer's block is, I think, Tran said, free writing. Free writing. I also do that when, I actually free journal. I just write about things because sometimes I have a busy schedule, and so I just take paper and I don't know what I want to write about because I'm so frustrated about things, and I just start writing. Or sometimes I'll do a focused free write, which is I'll write about how school is going, or I'll write about how politics are really irritating me right now, and I just free write.
The other thing, sometimes if you're having a hard time just, linearly, that's a word. I made that up. So get your thoughts out. I'll sketch things out, so I'll become more creative with it. Sometimes if I make a map of the things I'm trying, and then I will draw the connections between things that'll help me form the thoughts, get more completely, that I can write them in paragraph form. But sometimes I can't just get them out in paragraph form. I have to figure out a different way to get at it, and it helps me construct that in a way that I can do it in that format.
Yep.
Any other questions? Yeah, Tyler. The longest paper, what is it?
Well, I might be, if it was talking about undergrad, it was probably in the 30 to 40 page range. Whoa, sorry.
You can do it. You can do it. It's okay. Don't be scared.
My master's thesis was over 100 pages, and I'm about to submit the first 3 chapters of my dissertation, which is about 120 pages right now without references, and there's still chapters 4 and 5 to go.
All right, what's your question?
Thank you. How do you attack a paper like you just said that's 40 pages long? Never had that experience. So how do you come at a paper like that?
I'll be
you
brief
started?
because I've heard some other great suggestions here, as folks can expand or offer some other ideas. But it really does come down to small segments. I always say I don't outline, but I do. A lot of it's kind of, I do it here first, but then even that kind of crazy method of doing like a mind map of things, and I kind of figure out where those core pieces are at that are connected, and I build my outline and go at it. And sometimes they really are. Some of them could almost stand alone, but you create a narrative that works through that long paper, but they're segments that could stand alone, but you're showing how they're related over time. And it is iterative. It just takes time. A common cliche about finishing your PhD is it's eating a whale, one bite at a time.
Anything else you guys want to add?
My one piece of advice for tackling a large paper, take it in bite-sized chunks, like Eric mentioned, and think outside the box if you are at a block in the road. Talk with someone, talk to your instructor. They've seen a lot of students who were struggling with the same paper in many earlier semesters, and they might have some insight for you.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Having conversations can launch your thinking. Elia, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. I think you kind of already answered it, but like what time management for a paper that long?
How do you do?
You like fit that in along with your other classes?
How do you fit a long paper into your already busy schedule?
Yeah.
I'd like to tackle that because I have a long paper I'm trying to do right now. And I approach it, again, as segments. And I think with the long papers, it's not just longer, it's you go in depth, more in depth on the subject that you're writing about. So I literally treat it like I'm writing a couple papers, and I just work on one segment at a time. I still plan out my research, but usually as soon as the instructor has that on the syllabus or I know about it, I start looking into what do I want to do. I don't wait until the instructor says, okay, now we're going to talk about the term paper. I have already thought about what I want to do, or I've already gone to the instructor and said, about this term paper, I know you haven't talked about it, but this is what I want to do. Because I have very little free time. I have a family, I go to school, I work. So I have to have everything segmented out and I plan it out. And then I'm not also overwhelmed, because I still, when they say 20-page paper, I'm like, oh. But I know, okay, I want to write about this, this, and this, so I'll just tackle this for now. And then I'll write on this sometime later. And I try to at least schedule time, like every other day, to work on my paper. Even if it's just looking for more resources, 10, 15 minutes, half an hour, I just have to make the time. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and you should never be surprised by a 30 or 40-page paper, and you're probably going to have them in your higher level courses. Like I was thinking about, taking a class on sociology of race. That's all we talk about. Obviously that's a very broad field and discipline to look into, but as Ellie's suggesting, you just have to start that reading and research process early. Work with your faculty members, start defining what is your research question and what are the outcomes that you're going after. I'm a huge fan of Evernote, and you might find another method, but just I throw that citation in there and then I annotate it, and then I give it tags, or I know there's words in that I can find it later because I'm going to need it later. But the more you read and research, you're going to just create this base by which you can just jump off and write a lot about in depth over a specific subject.
Thank you guys. Abigail, what's your question?
My question kind of stems a little bit from hers. So you have work, you have kids, you have school. What do you do for yourself to kind of like keep
So where do you find me time? Is this a question?
What's a good way to kind of like keep yourself like mentally relaxed, and that way you can talk about what you have to do?
I find great relaxation in reading, but also in some form of creative expression. I use that as a reward. If I've done everything good that day, I'll read for 45 minutes before I go to bed. And that really takes the edge off of rigorous schedules.
Yeah, you're allowed like 20 minutes to yourself. Just
just take a break, you know?
At
It's not like
least.
I have to get this paper done right now. I have to bang out 30 pages. It's like, well, I wrote half a paragraph. I can watch TV or something. Just, you really do need me time because you're going to go insane. You just are able to find it. Sorry, go ahead.
I schedule my free time. I have to. I do, and I also go by. If you saw my binder, it's crazy. Everything is scheduled out, but I know that if I've done my homework, because my papers are never going to be done. I mean, I always have homework technically, because I'm not finished with everything yet, and I learned that here. I really had a rough one semester because I took 5 courses, I was working, and that's all I did. And my family suffered for it also. They said, please do not do that again. So now I just make sure I schedule all my schoolwork, and I know if I'm honestly giving that effort during those times, then on Saturday night's my time. Otherwise, I would just keep working on something because I always have homework.
And that's a good skill to learn because it's going to be the same when you get into the workplace.
Yeah.
Our last question here.
I was wondering how you make your writing more interesting. Like, how do you get out of, when you have, for example, a research paper and you already have an opinion about what you're going to write, but how do you make it more interesting rather than just talking about what you already think?
Some papers you have to write are boring.
Yeah.
That's just the truth. You're gonna. But all kidding aside, I see your point. I think that when you, again, it goes back to some of that content mastery. When you're in depth in the research and you can bring in a new synthesis or viewpoint, that's interesting. And so you have to do your homework ahead of time and know what you're talking about. But when you can add something to it, or even if it's novel to some degree, I think that's very interesting to the reader as well.
Okay, before we all start taking off, let us thank Tran and Eric and James and Ellie for their beautiful words.